All right, so welcome to our Smart Essay Data Dive this evening. We're so excited to be having this event tonight. We're kind of counting down the days for applications to start coming in for our Datathon this year with our Smart Essay partners. So CivTech is really, really excited about this Datathon, this partnership, this third year of doing this wonderful event with everyone. So we are gathered here today with all of our different partners to talk about the data that we've got up on our live catalog, to answer questions, and just to make sure that everyone feels super duper prepared to apply, to be part of the Datathon, and hopefully participate. So my name's Leslie Chasnoff. I'm the new CivTechSA Program Director for Geekdom. And what I'm going to do real quick is go ahead and toss it over to Eddie Johnson. He's our Office of Innovation half of CivTech, and he's going to kind of go over a little bit about what CivTech is, what Smart Essay is, and then we'll dive a little bit more into what the Datathon is and what this event tonight is going to look like. All right, Eddie.
All right, thank you, Leslie. And hey, everybody. Again, my name is Eddie Johnson. I'm with the Office of Innovation, Innovation Specialist. And as Leslie mentioned, I'm the other half of the CivTechSA program. So what is CivTechSA? CivTechSA is a partnership between the City of San Antonio's Office of Innovation, Geekdom. And what we're missioned to do is we work with and connect with students, companies, and the tech community with the city and also Smart Essay partners. Now we've got them involved as well, of course, to solve community challenges and grow civically minded tech talent. So just a little bit more about the CivTechSA program. So there are public events, educational programs throughout the year. We also have a really huge competitive 16-week residency program that also helps us work towards our mission. And so what you'll hear, or who you'll hear from in just a moment, will be a number of our Smart Essay partners. And so what is Smart Essay? Smart Essay is a partnership that's led by the City of San Antonio's Office of Innovation. And we leverage new and emerging technologies and data to improve the quality of life of our residents. Our Smart Essay partners joining us today include CPS, which is our energy company, SAWS, which is our water company, VIA, which is our transportation company, Sara, which is our San Antonio River Authority, EAA as our Edwards Aquifer Authority. City of San Antonio, we have two representatives here that'll speak towards or speak to the data that's being represented by our entity. And we also have Burke County IT. Smart Essay impact areas that the Datathon this year will focus on include affordability, environmental quality, and access to services. Leslie?
Awesome. Thank you for that wonderful overview of what it is CivTech does and a little bit about Smart Essay. It's such an amazing partnership that the city has with all of these partner companies to really, really push forward a lot of innovative ways to make our city and our services better for everyone in the community. So Datathon, that's why we're here today. So our Datathon is a program or an event that we do every year with CivTech and the Smart Essay partners. And our Smart Essay partners share data sets with the public in order to connect our community and ideas to improve the quality of life as we build kind of a smarter city, a smarter tomorrow. So aligning with the mission of Smart Essay as well. And the purpose for our Datathon is to engage our community in these challenge areas that we're addressing to affect the services of the city organizations and how they can provide things to their residents, give us insights, better inform us all about how we can approach solving solutions. So we're hoping that teams can discover or identify new opportunities or missing data elements in the sets, just kind of go in there, do your data science thing, and come up with really interesting insights and potential solutions for partners or the city to put in place. So we're encouraging developers, engineers, data science, technologists, other people with any kind of set of skills that you think you can contribute to a team in order to look at this data, come up with insights and solutions. And we are hoping that the teams are limits this year kind of from 2 to 6 people. So that's what we're looking at as far as who can apply. And what the rest of the Datathon will look like is our applications are due on June 24th. And our applications are up on the CivTechSA website under civtech-sa.com/datathon. And there you can also find out a lot more information and see the data catalog. So that's where you can access all of these data sets. And so if you're selected, if your team is selected, we will choose up to 7 teams to participate in the Datathon. The selected teams will have a mentorship day on July 11th. With our SmartSA partners so that they can ask questions, go a little bit deeper into what the data sets are that they're looking at and how they're approaching the challenge. Then we'll have a final pitch and kind of prizing day and event, which will happen on July 18th. And our prize categories are first place, which is $5,000. Our second place is $3,000. Our third place is $1,500, and we're also doing a crowd favorite this year, which is exciting, for $750. So we also hope that all the teams participating will make connections with these partners and with the other teams, everyone participating in this event. And by participating and submitting your ideas, you're just helping your community grow and make some big changes happen, which is really, really rewarding and awesome. So tonight, our data dive, the purpose is really just for each of these partners to kind of talk about the data sets that are up on the catalog this year, give us an overview, and of course, answer any questions that are submitted. So if you have questions while we're going live here, you can submit them on our Slido link, or you can submit them in the comments, and we'll try our best to get to as many as we can within our time frame. So I think first we are going to go to our partner at Respect. So Jim is going to give us a little bit of an insight into the Google Cloud platform and how to use some of the tools and view this data catalog and kind of dive in.
Great. Thanks, Leslie. So I'm also standing in for Jack O'Connell, who unfortunately couldn't be with us tonight. So I'll try to speak a little bit about Google's representation. We really appreciate the opportunity to help support the data. We supported it last year. We hope this lasts a long time in our relationship. From the Google perspective, as you know, in San Antonio, it's a fiber hood with Google. So hopefully that kind of investment by Google that no one ever really sees is going to help people connect better across the city. And there's a big investment there by Google. Also, Google's building 2 data centers in Texas, both up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So the future in terms of Texas and Texas data looks pretty bright when it comes to cloud technologies and the kind of support that Google with their regional office in Austin is going to be able to support. So that's exciting, and I'm very pleased to be able to associate myself with Google. We have a partnership with them. They're great to work with. I'm representing a company called Respect. We have an office, actually 2 offices in the San Antonio area. One is in West Loop 410, another one's in Castroville, but we plan on being in San Antonio for a long, long time. Our company's growing. We're a pretty diverse company. I won't bore you with any details, but we're very excited about open data and the kind of technology integration that is happening with SmartSA and the whole program all the partners are putting together. It's an important thing that we are just so pleased to be able to support. So what I wanted to do is do a quick screen share and just give you a quick little tour of some of the technologies we have that hopefully are going to help you make some of your progress in the Datathon and hopefully allow things to go pretty quickly. So what I've got here is can you see my whole window, or hopefully you can see that. Yeah, here we go. So I've got a few tabs open here. The first one, I'm going to go over to the Datathon. The Datathon website is actually hosted on something called Google Sites. It's not necessarily the most sophisticated thing in the world, but that's part of the beauty of it. It's very simple and easy to use. So someone like me can actually deploy a website. What you're seeing here is when you go to the Datathon website and you see the data sets being linked, those are actually just linked in a spreadsheet. So that made it easy. And those links come from the Google Cloud platform where the data are being hosted. This is the Google Cloud Platform interface. As you can see, there's a resource here for storage buckets. These buckets are the object stores where all the data from all the partners is stored right now. They're made public to the internet. So again, big shout out for transparency and accessibility here. But that's kind of the boring part. There's not really much happening here because these data are sitting there. But there's a large number of things you can actually do with these capabilities. And I was going to just show a couple things. So number one, I don't think we want to forget the fact that there is Google Sheets. So this is the sheet that's feeding the website. We also have the ability to download and upload those, or actually link them directly. But here's Jordan's rainfall data from San Antonio River Authority, uploads into Google Sheets. You don't have to download the CSV. You can read an XLS file right in there. Here's a VIA data set for bus fare box activity in 2020. That's the XLS version, just read directly into Google Sheets, about 5 megabytes. I know there's some big files out there on the Google Cloud storage, like 100 megabytes, as I recall. So I haven't put those through the paces yet, but this could be a very convenient way to begin to go in and kind of explore the data and run filters and all those kinds of things, which I know you're probably used to using any number of tools to do that. One of the other things that we have listed on a tab that you can find on the website is something called Google Data Science Tools Free. It's not necessarily a complete list of these things, but I thought for those of you who have some kind of data science background, you may be aware of the Google Colab. So that's a shared cloud-hosted Python collaborative notebook that you can share amongst your team. And if you're Python savvy, you can really do a whole lot with the Google Colab to make that work. And then of course there's something called Data Studio, and I was going to show you that real quick because that's pretty interesting too. That's a free tool from Google, and you can go into, if you have a Google account, go in there and explore Data Studio. And because all these data sets are open and free, you can connect to those data sets. So here's where I got Jordan's rainfall data again. Again, this is not sophisticated. I'm not a data scientist. I can fake it a little bit, but only because these tools are so easy to use. But here's a graph of rainfall. I got a tree map dropped in here. I can put many other things in here, but this again is another free tool to be able to look at data in different dimensions, different ways that you might find convenient. So just want to make sure that people are aware of these things that are out there. Again, you can use whatever you're used to working with, but there's more and more things from Google that are becoming more accessible, more usable, more easy to make data science and all the data wrangling that usually has to go on. But from all the data that I've seen so far, all the partners have done an awesome job getting the data out there. It's very clean, very, very complete. So your job should be easy to take whatever ideas you have and make them come alive in terms of the things you want to do. So I'm going to stop sharing now. And I'll be available throughout the entire Datathon period for any questions anyone has. Please feel free to reach out to me. I think Leslie also has Jack's email. So any questions, any topics that come up, feel free to reach out and we'll try to find an answer if we don't have it and support you. Really enjoyed it last year. I was able to go there during the day on Saturday and walk around, meet with folks. And it was just a whole lot of fun to watch everybody really kind of pull their ideas together and get their applications and their thoughts together. So thanks again. Appreciate all the opportunity to be able to support you. And I'll turn it back over to Leslie.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jim. I am not a data scientist either, but that was such an amazing display of all the super cool things the Google Cloud tools can do. And then, getting into our data sets is just awesome. So thank you so much. And thank you to Google and Respect for being partners in this and helping us out so much with these data sets and giving them to the public in a really awesome way. All right. So next up is VIA. So our friends from VIA, will you go ahead and tell everyone a little bit more about your data sets?
Hi everyone. So for VIA, we had a range, but it's all about our transit data. So we have alerts, bus locations, stop locations, stop times, trip information. We have ridership by route, as well as like on-time performance, which measures what the bus is scheduled to, when a bus is scheduled to be at a bus stop versus when it actually gets there. So there's comparison data in there for that. One of the elements that we had to add was geolocation data for this year. So for our geolocation data, Bridget was integral for that, and Jose has done this before. So we all actually kind of worked on this as a team. But for the geolocation data, we actually provided street names and zip codes for all of the bus stops across the city of San Antonio. And so we are also we also have data that in regards to scheduled versus actual miles driven by route. One of the things that we actually did with this data, because we are in a pandemic right now and our ridership has changed, so in order to bulk up the data and give more information to the people who are going to manipulate it, we actually pulled a lot of data from like back in February. So it would be more robust and more in line with what our regular ridership is, regular routes, regular stop times, like all of that information. So that's it. So that's the range.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jen. So I guess if that is all from our VIA, which was a super great overview, just so everyone can know exactly what you guys have put out there, if they had any questions about there's a lot of data in this catalog. So I think just getting a fresh overview of what's there is super duper helpful tonight. And a little bit about the way you approached how to choose what to put in there was really helpful as well. So yeah, I guess for now we can go over to CPS next. So Arun, if you want to tell everyone a little bit about the CPS data that's in the catalog.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm Arun CivTechSA for all of you all watching. I work for CPS Energy, been working almost like 6 years now as a manager of data science. So I do deal with all things data at CPS Energy. So a bunch of data items that we put together for this datathon that will be useful so that all you data scientists, data analysts will get excited about is, one is the volume of data. We have a lot of data. Every household in San Antonio has a meter that it is an advanced meter infrastructure that we've actually installed, like I think a couple of years ago, almost all of San Antonio. And that records every 15 minutes the usage and a whole lot of other details around the meter. So that is almost like 15 minutes a day is like 96 intervals. So 96 times about a year, it's almost for 10,000 sample meters that I put together, it's about like 350 million rows of data that you can play with. And so what we did was, we're also providing you lats and longs for each meter. So if you try to go back and find out who that meter belongs to, etc., you won't be able to, because we've jumbled up across the city of San Antonio. So a meter which has belonged to Southeast might be somewhere like at least 5, 10, 20 miles far from that. And it's all like jumbled up so that the privacy is still maintained. So we have the AMI meter information for almost a year, and we have very detailed weather information that we actually get it from NOAA. So you can compare the usage patterns of all the customers across San Antonio. You have the weather, so how these two correlate. So that's actually a big piece, because when it gets heated up, I mean, like the temperature goes up, obviously you turn up the ACs, and like how vice versa. So that's one. And the other information that we have is the emissions. So that's another key data set that we have. And you can also go onto TCEQ website and download the data. So we've given you those links, so you can go download all the emissions across San Antonio, because I don't think so we have, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have not gotten the attainment of having the right emission levels in San Antonio. Maybe Eddie or somebody can jump in from San Antonio and let us know on that part. And another trend that you see is you see a lot of EVs that people are buying and using these days. So we have EV charging data. So we have all the charge point, etc., because we operate supply the electricity across the San Antonio. So all the EV charging stations, we know exactly not who's using it, but like when it's being used and what kind of car it is, etc. So that information is also out there. So now it's all up to you guys how you take all of these different data sets from different entities and how you combine them or come up with a great insight. So yep, that's pretty much it with all the data sets.
So great. Thank you, Arun. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of different things. And you can definitely, as with VIA, to really see how this type of data would go into these impact areas, of accessibility, of environmental quality, and just access to services. So all of that is super helpful to know. Thank you so much. With that, we will go ahead and move to Saz. So Saz, will you please tell us a little bit more about your data sets this year?
Sure, this is Jim Benderwald. Can everybody hear me? Great. So similar to CPS, we have meters in homes, and we've provided a data set of residential consumption by home for 2017 through 2019. And I'm going to try to share my screen real quick and just show you and let me know you can see a spreadsheet. Should be looking at a spreadsheet. Assuming everyone can see that. There's basically a tab that's a data dictionary. There's not a data points. It's a very simple header where we have, we've also protected the consumer's anonymity. So we have a record number where we can to look up a house, but basically the data is just laid out where there's a record number and then the street and the zip code, so you can map back just like you did with some of the other partners. So an example here is, we have a house on West Houston Street in zip code 78207. So that's the header information, and then we just provide 6 months worth of data points, which is the gallons that are consumed by the individual residential customers. And then just a few call outs here. So there can be, the home was unoccupied or they weren't using any water, but typically you'll find accounts will go live and then go close. So if I live in a house for a period of time and accounts under my 17, but it's going to be a new account showing for the person that occupied the house in 2018 and 2019. So you can see some zeros or some null values for that. We also have, given service location can appear more than once. So that would be for a variety of reasons. Again, we only went down to the street name and the zip code level. So if there's homes on the street, you're going to see it 20 times. And as I mentioned, if a house changes hands or if it's a rental, you may have a new account every year, every so many years when it changes hands. On this database, and we have about 500,000 active customers at any given point in time. And then just a call out on consumption, it's very similar to like what CPS was saying is, can vary certainly during the warmer summer months. More people are in the house, kids are home from school using the water. You may have a pool. A lot of people irrigate their lawns. You'll see, spikes in the summer months, smooth out a little bit in the spring and the fall and the winter months. And then you could have where folks end up getting a leak, and so it'll be a small spike, and then you'll see things return. The data set is 99.99% complete and accurate. However, we did inject a few outliers just so that the data science team can find some things, and we can look up anything if they need any help. But it's, as I said, very simple data dictionary, and the data is just laid out in a format, again, with the header information saying the street and the zip code, and then the columns across just show various years, and I just color coded the years. So 2017 is yellow, and 18 is a tannish color, and 19 is a blue color. And that any questions?
I think we're good for now, James, or Jim. We're going to take our questions at the end so that we don't get too many kind of segues going here.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Saz. So next data set we're going to be looking at is going to be Sara. So kind of in the same water mode. So if our Sara friend Jordan wants to come on and tell us a little bit more about the Sara data set that is provided in the catalog this year.
Thank you, Leslie. What I'm going to talk about is basically our data set has not changed much from what we had last year. We have updated the data and we've reformatted it a little bit. What we, as an environmental agency, we're very involved in sustainability and green infrastructure, and a lot of our interest points and curiosity derives around that. So what we've posted is we do periodic water quality testing along the entire 4-county jurisdiction that we cover, that the San Antonio River flows through from Bexar County, Wilson, Karnes, and Goliad. We've uploaded our Bexar County data. I did reformat it a little bit this year because one of the critiques we've had last year was there was not a good data dictionary included with it, and folks had a hard time because we have so many parameters that we're testing for. Things like E. coli, you'll see that there are several parameters related to E. coli involved in there. And so people had a hard time understanding what to do with these particular pieces of data. I've reformatted it and included a much more detailed description of each parameter. So as you go through that and you look at each record, the detailed description is included with each record within the data set. And Jim also then did kind of give a little demo of the rainfall data. We have various rainfall gauges scattered across Bexar County where we're continuously recording 5-minute rainfall collection. And I've provided 2 data sets, one that breaks it down in the actual each individual 5-minute increment measurement, and then one that is a summary for a 24-hour period of that rainfall. We gave a couple sample data sets of impervious coverage, areas in the city where, specifically of Burke City Base and the Texas A&M campus, where you have things like hard surfaces, whether it's a building or a driveway, a sidewalk, a street, things that when the rainfall hits, that then has to flow off. It can't be absorbed into the ground. We also have links to our high resolution contour data, if anybody's interested in working with that. And then also the gauge readings from our, we have 4 gauges that we actively maintain ourselves along the river in what we call the Mission Reach area. And that data can also be augmented with USGS gauge data that's also freely available. Areas in here, we've provided links where, like with the water quality data, where you can actually go to our website. If you wanted to see if there was something newer, you could go and download an even more up-to-date data set. It would be formatted a little bit differently. It'd be more in the version where it was last year, but you can use the sample set that we've put up for the that has the detailed descriptions for each parameter in there. And then I would just encourage that, in addition to these data sets that we've put up there, for whichever area that you want to work with, don't just limit yourself to what we've put up. We've kind of put these up as this is what we have, but I would love to see, what else can you find to then incorporate this so that you're taking our data and SAW's data and combining together and maybe working with USGS and NOAA and other freely available data sets to kind of make it a much bigger package. So. And with that, I will let you move on, Leslie.
Thank you so much, Jordan. That was very, very helpful. I think the data dictionary, that sounds like that's going to be an excellent addition to help out our teams with looking at the data and understanding it and getting some inspiration as well. So thank you so much. So next up is our Edwards Aquifer. So for our Edwards Aquifer guy, I believe his name is Jared. You're here. So if you want to hop on and tell us a little bit more about the data that's in the catalog, that would be awesome.
So we have a smaller data set in our catalog. Mostly it focuses on our spring runs. That's where we have all of our endangered species. And one of the reasons why Edwards Aquifer exists is to protect those endangered species, in addition to making water available for the 3 million folks in our 4-county region. So that's our primary mission. So what we provided this year is the water quality and water quantity data surrounding that area. It would dovetail very nicely with any of the other water data that has been shown. We're kind of one of the smaller groups, so bonus points for incorporating any of our data when there's water running out in certain locations. Check out those springs, and it could tell a very interesting story. So that's our data set this time.
Awesome. Yeah, I do think it'd be really interesting to see how folks can tackle looking at all these different water data sets and how they might interact with each other. So very cool. We're so glad you guys have joined us this year. So moving forward, we are going to go to our City of San Antonio folks. So they're going to give us a little bit of insight into their open data set, which is also linked in our catalog. So City of San Antonio, y'all want to tell us a little bit more?
I guess I can go. My name's Sean Cummings. I'm a enterprise GIS solution supervisor. I actually deal with public safety. So I oversee all GIS for public safety. So, I mean, some of these data sets, you know, my team handles, and there's lots of other data also in here that we've been sharing probably at the city for, I know our GIS open data page has been up for the last at least 3 years. And we share pretty much any data set that we produce at the city. It is that with the GIS teams, we have it updated. Some things are updated monthly, some are updated weekly, some are even more often than that. So it looks like on the catalog here, they have the link to the OpenGov open data page, which has a couple other links. I guess Liliana could talk about some of those. I mean, I can show you. So we've had this. Let me share my screen. So we have several sources where you can hit the same data. We have, let me know when you can see my screen. And we have our own old, sorry, there we go. So we have our old DNN page, which has kind of the classical upload data sets to be downloaded. We still maintain this to some extent, but now we have a lot of scripts that are always processing data and uploading them to our ArcGIS Online organization, and we share on a hub site. So this is our hub site, which also then, this is where we curate the data, and that also shares over to our Open Data SA page, which is what looks like that's what you guys are sharing out on your catalog. So let me go back. So we have the data categorized in these 8 different groups on here. We have political boundaries, zoning and land use, public safety, stormwater utility, CIP and bond projects, development, parks and recreation, and transportation. And when you click on any one of these, you're gonna get a series of data sets. So these are our SAPD safe zones, which these are the boundaries where they have like community outreach. These are the officers that would go to those meetings and share information and work with the community. We also have all of our service areas and districts and battalions and bike patrol districts. One thing you will not see on here right now is you're not going to see public safety like calls for service. So 911 calls and crime. That's one thing we're working on. We're working on trying to figure out how to best share that information. So hopefully with the next couple months, that's going to be on here too. And that's one of our #1 requests, are people asking for open records requests on calls for service or crime. So that's kind of like the public safety. And so if you can come around here, and we have all sorts of, one thing I know people like, obviously zoning and land use is a big data set. So we have a lot of that, all of that different stuff here. We have downtown districts, future land use, all sorts of things on here. And then if you click on one of these, I'm sure some of the people, a lot of people on here are familiar with hub sites, but it just opens up the data. And so from right in here, you can pull the service of the data. I don't know why I picked up sector plan land use as a large data set, but it'll kind of give you an overview of what the data is. You can get down and look at the individual information, and then you can download it in a series of ways. So you can have a spreadsheet, KML, shapefile, file geodatabase. So, and all that information, so this is one place, like I said, you guys have the link to here. It's the same thing. A lot of the data is on here too. It looks a little different, but it's all the same information. As soon as we upload the data to ArcGIS Online, all the links in here are going directly to that hosted feature service. And so it has all those same things, right? You got the GeoJSON, you got CSV, KML, shapefiles, etc. There's a couple other data sets on here. I don't know if Liliana wants to talk about that we don't have because it's not GIS data. I think it's like the 311 data. Let me go back. So they've got 311 service calls, building permits. They have some of those things that are not GIS data. You can see all it's on here is a CSV and an XLSX file. Everything else is hitting our GIS, ArcGIS Online organization data sets directly. So there's a lot of data out here, and we're always adding new stuff. So I mean, all the time, someone will, a department will request, hey, we have this new type of data, and then we kind of go through a process of, well, should we share an open data? And if we do, we put it out there and it's available to see. So there's a lot of information on here. City has a lot of data, but then we also have this is also where we share a lot of applications, other things that are good to know about too. So I don't know if Liliana, if you want to speak to open data a little bit also. She might be on mute, but that's what I have for, and we have, looks like we have a LinkedIn Pervious cover. One of the things I did see I'm not familiar with, sorry, backtrack here, is you have this SA trip. I was reading a little bit, I'm not really familiar with that data set. Looks like it's based on, it's like traffic, remote sensing data. So that's something that to look at. I can't really speak to that. So I don't know if Eddie might have some more information about that too.
Yeah, I know Liliana may have.
Can you hear me now? I was muted. Can you hear me now?
Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah, thanks, Liliana. Appreciate it.
Hi. Hi, everyone. My name is Liliana Martinez from the city of San Antonio. I'm part of the business intelligence group in IT. I'm going to share my screen so you can see, well, pretty much what Sean was saying. For the city, we have 2 open data hubs. The ArcGIS that has all the data sets here for GIS, and also the open data platform that we established in 2018. Let me see, I can find my my screen. Oh, I know why. Hold on. I'm sorry. So if I go here, no, I don't need that one. Sorry. Okay. So can you see my screen or not really?
Not yet, but it could be loading up.
Not yet? Okay, hold on. Okay. Now, can you see my screen?
Yep, got it.
Yep. Okay. All right. So this is the open data platform that also contains the the sites for that send you back to the GIS open data platform. But the data set that we are sharing for the Datathon is the one related to the service calls from 311. These calls are updated every weekend. And as you can see, when you go to the our open data platform right here, this is how you get to it. But in order to find out what are the data sets that we have here, you just go to the data sets that we have available, and including the GIS data that you see here, which are the ones that Sean talked about. We also have the 311 service calls that are part of the Datathon data that we're sharing for this project. And also you can find other data sets coming from our development services department, which are related to building permits and a series of data sets that people usually ask for. So the one that is on the Datathon platform right now is the one related to service calls. And as you can see, it has a little fire flame next to them because it's a hot data set. It means that a lot of people are looking at them. And we are connected to the Google Analytics. So every so often we check how many people open and review these data sets. And we have quite a few, I mean, in the thousands. People really download these data sets a lot. Like I said, we refresh it every week. It has a year of data on them. And as you can see, this has almost a little more than 500,000 records. And it contains pretty much the services for which 311 is called and requested, whether an animal died outside your house and you call 311 and you say, can you pick it up? It's here. We also track whether, according to our SLA, was picked up on time or not, and the addresses and the district, and the type of services like you see here, whether a tree fell off, or it has a series of services that are most commonly 311 called for. So it has plenty of information, more information that you want to deal with. But it's very helpful. It's something that, like I said, it has thousands of views every month, and it's very popular. It's something that people really like to see and track, like neighborhood associations. They want to see what's going on their neighborhood, or the type of services that they usually call for in that area. The council districts as well. So it's very popular, and this is the data set that is part of the Datathon. And I hope somebody can bring up new ideas for it and solutions. So, yeah. So that's all I have to share.
Great. Thank you so much, Liliana.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so that was some really great overview from both Liliana and Sean on all the COSA data that is available. It's a lot. So, and I think, again, really interesting intersections, I'm sure, if you look at looking at SAWS data with some city data, or, kind of coming together, putting some of these data sets together and seeing what really unique insights you could form, and just how everything might talk to each other. So thank you so much, Liliana. If you want to stop sharing your screen, we will move to our next data set. So we are going to go to Bexar County, and they are going to share with us a little bit about their data sets this year.
Thanks, Leslie. My name is Steve Hoff. I'm joined with by my colleague, Brian Beck, over here, and we work with Bexar County's Information Technology Department, specifically its Center for Innovation and Civic Engagement. And the data set we are sharing today is Bexar County foreclosures. So every time a property goes under foreclosure notice in Bexar County, it gets processed through the Bexar County Clerk's Office. And we capture that data in GIS, or geographic format. And so I'm going to share my screen and show you a little bit about what that can look like. And so this is a public-facing web application. URL is maps.bear.org/foreclosures, and we'll be sure to forward that. But very simple. This just shows a point feature set of current month foreclosure notices in Bexar County. Now, the data set that we're contributing for the Datathon goes all the way back to 2007. So it's a really nice historical data set. And the attributes behind this are pretty simple. We have just address, we have the type of foreclosure, either mortgage or tax, school district, and then a foreclosure document number. And so again, it's a pretty simple data set, but you know, it's also a somewhat somber data set, but we think it's important, and we really hope that someone can use it to find value for the community. And so, do you have anything to add, Brian? Okay, back to you, Leslie.
Yes, that is a super important data set. I think especially when we're looking at those, again, looking at the impact areas that the Datathon is really focusing on this year. So affordability and the access to services there, I think that definitely plays into both. So super, super helpful. And we're so excited you guys are with us this year. Nice addition to the CivTechSA partners. So for our next portion and kind of towards the end, we're just going to start doing our Q&A. So I'm going to pull up our Slido and then also check our Facebook comments after that, just to make sure we're getting all of the questions. So I will read out some questions, and then if there are more CivTech related questions as far as the structure of the Datathon, myself or Eddie can answer those. And if there are kind of CivTechSA partner specific questions, you guys are welcome to chime in. So first question I have up on the Slido is, how will the event run differently this year being virtual? So we're already doing it differently with this right now with our data dive. Usually this is in person, and it's an opportunity to not only hear about the data, but network, possibly meet other teams or join teams, that kind of thing. So while we are sad that we cannot all be in person this year, I think that we will still be able to really connect and do some awesome work virtually. So we will just be continuing to utilize Zoom. So those teams that are selected for your mentor day or mentor weekend on the 11th of July, that will all be through a private Zoom. So we'll have, again, like our CivTechSA mentors and participants come in and talk more about their data sets, and you'll have little breakout sessions in the Zoom rooms to talk to our mentors there as well. And so for our prizing and pitch day, we'll utilize Zoom again and a live stream through our channels to have each of the teams pitch their project idea, insight, whatever it is they've been working on. We'll have kind of some downtime for judging, and then we'll come live to announce the prizes. So again, just utilizing Zoom and the breakout room feature and a couple of things like that, but it will all be virtual. And next question I'm seeing here is, who are the judges for this event? I'll go ahead and answer that as well. So the judges will be folks from our CivTechSA partners, as well as Geekdom and the Office of Innovation. Not the same people that are your mentors that are working with you the whole time. It'll be a different set of people, so they won't know anything about what you've been working on this whole time, but they will be from those organizations and partners. Let's see. We have one for CPS, and it is asking, will paratransit data be provided by CPS?
CPS in transit data?
I think it might have meant via.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, repeat the question.
Will paratransit data be provided by VIA?
Okay, so the paratransit data is provided in the logged messages file. So there's data in there on that file, because we provided info for all vehicles in that file. So there is some there.
Awesome, thank you, Jen. I just saw another one for VIA, which is asking about the data from the VIA Link program, and I suppose if any of that is provided as well.
Jose, can you speak to that?
Yes. The VIA Link program is relatively new, and we did not provide data for VIA Link. Possibly in future competitions, we have the data to provide, but we just chose not to provide it for this competition.
Yeah, I think these questions are great for us, because it does let us know gaps, and so there are some pieces that I think we can probably increase the data set for next year. So thank you for that.
Awesome. Thank you guys for answering those. Let's see, our next one here is a question. Are there data sets that have taken priority or have more interest due to recent developments with COVID-19? And I don't know if anyone from the city wants to chime in. Eddie, you might want to chime in on this, but none of the data sets that we've provided or the impact areas that we are highlighting here have been pivoted at all at this point to specifically focus on COVID-19. We've built this program kind of pre-COVID-19, and so we're working on it then. But I don't know, anyone else want to chime in on answering that, or we all feel like?
This is Sean from the city.
Hi, John.
We don't have it on either of, well, actually, we do have a link. I can share this real quick, but it's not, if the data-a-thon's already kind of set with what the questions are and what those things are, but I mean, we do have data out there, and we're in the process of talking about what additional information we're going to share. So I can come, so on our open data page here, we have a link right here. It says City of San Antonio COVID-19 open data page. And you can go to that. And right now we only have 3 data sets shared on here. So when you come down to this, we've got confirmed cases categories by zip code. This is a nice data set to look at, but it doesn't give you a whole lot of information because they're case categories, but it does show you a spatial distribution around the city. We're about to add in cases reported over the last 14 days. That'll be added to this data set. So you'll have a zip code, and you'll have kind of a case range for cases over the last 14 days, as well as how many cases overall. This is probably the one data set that probably most people are interested in. It's not GIS data, it's just tabular, but it has, this is most of the stuff that fuel our dashboards. It doesn't have some of the demographic information in here, but it has a daily record of all the different data. So data points. So you've got going back to 2/12/2020, you've got cases reported on. So obviously early on, we don't have anything going on. But you get a little later on in the data set, and you've got what was reported that day. So you got five cases reported. Cumulative count was 2213. How many were deceased, recovered, ever hospitalized? This is that distribution over time, that temporal distribution of the change in data. So this is one data set where we're working with Metro Health to kind of identify, are there better ways to share this information to give people access to, whether it's demographic data over time, or they're still a little leery about sending out, they're still worried about HIPAA violations, even though that's debatable right now when it's a public safety or a pandemic situation, on how strict, if you have to follow the same strict HIPAA regulations. They are. so we're limited in what we can share, but we're trying to find interesting ways to share useful data that we can that people could use. So another one another data set we have on here is the onset dates. And this is basically, it's the date of onset, but obviously you're not going to have asymptomatic cases are not going to be in here because there's no onset of symptoms. So this data set is basically similar to that other one. It's just a day of time, and then how many cases reported onset on that date, onset of illness. And then we also have a rolling 5-day average. So this gets you kind of like a trend line of which is used on our dashboards also. So this is where we would host or curate that COVID data, if any more. So as we share more data publicly, or as Metro Health shares more data publicly, we'll be putting it on in this area. So I don't know if that helps answer that question.
It does, Sean. I appreciate you going over that. One thing to note too is that a component of last year's Datathon was the ability for teams to utilize outside data sets. So although we provided particular data sets, within the Google platform, the hope is that you would utilize those, but to also see if there's any external data sets that you could kind of cross-reference to help, provide further insights with the ones that we've provided.
Great. Yes. Thank you for mentioning that, Eddie. That was actually one of our next questions was, are we free to utilize any combination of the data sets, and are we allowed to use outside data sets as part of the combination? So yes and yes to both of those, as Eddie just touched on. We certainly encourage using other data sets. I would say too that when you are looking at other data sets and when you're applying and putting in your application, that might be something you want to speak about so that we know a little bit more about where you're looking and what other data sets you might be bringing in when you apply. And as well as just a reminder of the impact areas of the Datathon this year. So really looking at that affordability, environmental quality, and access to services. So when you are looking at data sets and combining these all together, just kind of keeping that at the front of your mind, and how to really look at those specific areas when you're doing all these crazy combinations and pulling stuff from all over the place. So great. That was an awesome little discussion. Next, I have one about the success story from a previous Datathon. So this is my first year hopping in with the Datathon. So I don't know if anyone has kind of an anecdote they want to share, or several about previous Datathon teams or winners that you thought were really stand out, or just made a super big splash.
Hi, everybody. Joyce Dooley. I'm one of the program managers here at Geekdom. I actually kicked off the CivTechSA program in 2018 and held our initial SmartSA Datathon competition. The winning team came up with an idea called Cool Connect, which was to connect senior citizens with via bus stops and local cooling centers. So in the event that there was some kind of a power outage or an emergency, especially during inclement weather or extreme weather patterns, so during the summer or in the winter, that seniors would be able to get access to cooling centers, because as we know in South Texas, the heat can kill. And so that was the winning solution. We ended up moving through a process to kind of develop that further, but we have since moved into a prize category sort of situation. But that's a really great example of how to take a couple of different kinds of sets, put them together, and come up with meaningful, impactful ideas for us.
Awesome. Anything else anyone wanted to add?
I don't have a particular example, but I will add that on the website, we do have a media tab, and we typically keep or put all of our, inspiring stories, any sort of articles that get produced out of the program. And I know there's going to be a couple out of the Datathons prior, and in addition to some other events that come out of the CivTechSA program. So I have to go on there too and just kind of, peruse some of those articles that exist out there.
Yeah, I think some of the other things that to look at is having to do with, like neighborhood consumptions, as well as affordable housing initiatives, and how that might compare for the access to services. There was one team that did an idea on basically how do you know the full amount of like what your rent and utilities might look like over time, so you can know the true cost of home ownership, which I'm not sure that everybody always has a clear picture on, which was pretty impactful from an affordable housing perspective. And then there were some projects last year where people were looking at sustainability data between Sara, as well as just some of the SmartSA partners initiatives and our CO2 emissions, and really kind of mapping out construction projects and outages and like leaks and stuff like that, and service calls that were being made for saws, and put them together in this really great, amazing like spreadsheet and like data visualization tool, which was pretty awesome.
Hey, Leslie, are we able to provide a link to those that are, attending?
Yes, absolutely. So we can drop a link in the Facebook comments if you'd like.
Okay, I'm not on Facebook, but I'm going to in our chat if that's okay.
Yeah, just a link straight to the Datathon page or the news.
It's to the article that was written about last year's Datathon.
Got it.
It gives an overview of all of the.
Yeah, we can. I'll make sure I find that right after we're done because I don't want to spend too much time digging in there. And
All
we'll
right.
pop it into the comments. That's a great reference, I think, for sure. Awesome. Okay. So I think the next question, what is the judging criteria for the event? So when we're looking at scoring the applications that come in, we're looking for the feasibility and ease of the implementation of this. So do we think this is something, you might actually be able to get done? Does it seem like way too big of a beast to tackle? That kind of thing. We're also looking for it to be really compelling. So of course, this is something that we want to be moved by. We want to see the inspiration and see the kind of fire behind what you're applying to do for the Datathon. So that's another big one. How insightful. So of course, this is taking all this data and turning it into something to process that is an insight, that is something that maybe could be actionable in the future. So looking at that. How innovative. We also want to see some different approaches. And that's part of the beauty of having these events and sharing this data with the public and getting them to interact with it and come up with new exciting things that perhaps our partners or people who work on this every day may not see or may not make the right or the same correlation with. And of course, we want to also look at the quality of the presentation, the quality of your kind of project at the end as well. So hopefully that answers some questions. Eddie, Joyce, do you want to chime any more about judging and kind of like what else we might be looking for during this process?
Mm-hmm. I think you hit everything, to be honest.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
So what is a mentor day like? I know that Joyce might be able, or Eddie might be able to speak to this a little bit better. But for our mentor day this year, I think we mentioned earlier that it is going to be virtual. So you'll spend kind of from 10 to 2 o'clock during the day on a Saturday. First, hearing just presentation type situation of mentors going a little bit more into the data even deeper. Specifically, if we know your projects that you're working on, we can tailor a bit of what information is provided to you all and to your project specifically. And then we'll utilize breakout rooms in Zoom so that each team can meet with each mentor from each partner. So even if they're not the partner that you're working on the data set for, say maybe you're working with the SAWS and Sara data set, we still think it's beneficial for you to meet with VIA and CPS and the city and Bexar County, everyone that's involved, so that they may be able to give you some different insights and just kind of help you think of things differently or find a new correlation or something that might work for your project. So you'll spend time kind of listening to some presentations from mentors, connecting with them, networking with them, and then going through individually to get very specific insight and advice on your project with your team. Eddie, Joyce, anything to add?
Yeah, so great overview. At the end of the day, they'll basically be industry experts. So similar to the individuals that are presenting here tonight, experts that can speak to the data, but also just about data in general. So in a nutshell, that's what the mentors will be.
So just to clarify something, as part of the program and the participation, so the Saturday, July 11th, once we have the final teams, those are going to be the ones that are going to get the in-depth access to the SMEs and the partners from the city and SmartSA. But then on the actual day of competition, there is another portion of the day that's dedicated to mentorship. And that is more from a business perspective, like a business case or an application and presentation perspective, to make sure that not only are we talking about the data sets and the things, but also, is this really applicable? Is this really feasible? Is this something that could turn into more for any of the SmartSA partners to take forward and to just help you guys run through presenting the ideas? There needs to be a good balance between the data science or the tech component and the impact and business use cases.
Yes, very great addition. Thank you, Joyce. Both of those are very important for you in the process of not only working with that data, but how are you presenting it, especially in this kind of public pitch format, and how are you really going to be able to move your project forward, or how can these partners move your project forward if it's something that can be done, which is a really exciting opportunity. I'm going to go ahead and hop to a next question, which is, can there be more than one team for a data partner, or is it one team for Sara, one team for VIA, et cetera? So there can certainly be more than one team for one partner. And as we've kind of talked about a bit, we definitely encourage using multiple data sets from different partners. So that also makes it a bit more of a mix of what's being presented and what's being used. So certainly it's not just one per partner. It's going to be a mix all over the board. So I think that answers that question. See, I am not part of a team, but would love to join one. How can I find out if teams are looking for new members? So typically as part of this Datadive event, we do let everyone network afterwards and before, and it's a great opportunity to meet people if you don't have a team, but you're interested in participating. So I think that a great idea for this year, since we are all virtual, is to utilize the comments under this video, maybe putting something in there saying, hey, I'm looking for a team, start a conversation there. You can also reach out to us at CivTechSA@geekdom.com. And if we have heard of a team or have someone in our community that might want to partner up with you and participate in this with you, we're happy to make connections and help you out as much as we can. So great question for that one. I'm not a data scientist, but I have a project management background. Would I still be useful and be able to contribute to this competition? I would say absolutely. If you have a team that needs some help in that regard with kind of moving this project along as they're executing it, I think that's always helpful. And I think, when you're building out your team, having a lot of different types of skills and headsets together to go along with that data scientist mode can certainly be very helpful. Anything anyone else wants to add there? Joyce, Eddie?
Oh, you got it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that one thing to emphasize is in any of these kinds of competitions or entrepreneurial events and things like that, it's kind of nice to have a balance. So that way you can kind of make sure that you're doing a really well-rounded presentation or solution that or insights that you're developing, right? So having someone with a business perspective or a design perspective or data visualization versus data science versus project management or marketing, I think all of those components together create a really strong case for building out your team.
Definitely. Great. Okay, this one's a big one. So I'm not sure how many people are going to want to chime in here, since it could be everyone and everyone is welcome to. But what outcomes are the SmartSA partners looking for? So if anyone wants to just kind of speak a little bit about maybe something in particular with an impact area with your company, their organization, that is kind of a standout issue or a problem that might be something for people to focus on, chime in. Or if anyone wants to speak to, are we looking for insights versus, an actual solution or product, that kind of thing. Joyce, I don't know if you want to speak a little bit to that, or Eddie.
Yeah, I was just going to say in general, at the end of the day, we don't know what we're looking for. We're really trying to, or we are depending on, these data teams to see the things that we haven't seen in the data. And so, if they find something that we're not collecting, and maybe there's a piece of our data set, or a component of our data that needs to change, or we're not collecting the right information, or maybe you, as a data team, see a challenge in the community that feels like this data can potentially help address, and it can potentially create a solution that hasn't been created yet. I think that's the sole purpose of the Datathon. But I'll let anybody else who has input there kind of chime in.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Leslie and Eddie really touched on the kind of the importance of what we're trying to accomplish here. You know, all of these partners, and we actually added a couple of new partners to the mix this year, which is really exciting. And that means that there's more data available, but that also means that there's more data to sift through and to compare. And so this is an immensely helpful opportunity and impactful one where, you know, I'm not sure in how many other cities you have so many municipal partners and the city coming forward and asking for this kind of help and rolling out the carpet and creating ways in which you guys can plug in and have real impact on what we're trying to accomplish here in San Antonio from a sustainability perspective, from a quality of life perspective. And so, yeah, I think that this is a really unique event and the collaboration is really key here. And we want to know from you, because you're the experts and you have the ability to see things from an outsider's perspective that the partners kind of are steeped with, you know, day in and day out. And so it'll be really amazing to see what you guys come up with this year.
Awesome. So one of our last, I have two more here on our Slido. Outside of programs like CivTechSA, what is the process in place for our city leaders? And I assume we can also speak about our partner leaders to solve these types of issues. So CivTech Datathon, outside of that, I guess just curiosity around some approaches of the city or some of our partner entities here. I don't know, Eddie, if you want to speak a little bit, just kind of briefly about other Smart SA initiatives and things that you guys all work on together, and maybe speak about that partnership a little bit more, because I think that's probably one of the best ways that the city does engage outside of the Datathon.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of ways that we engage the community and not necessarily our Smart SA partners. We definitely have a super formal process in how we attract solutions to general city challenges. One effort that our office recently initiated was what we call a Smart SA sandbox. So there's sandbox events is what they're coined as, but basically what we do is we pick a spot somewhere around San Antonio, and we invite the entire community to test out, play with, different technologies or solutions or ideas that, our Smart SA partners and outside entities as well, not necessarily a part of that core Smart SA partner group, to give us an opportunity to kind of play with, those items and kind of get their feedback in terms of, is this something that you would utilize? What can we do better? Are we really addressing anything in terms of challenge that you guys are having, within the community? So I think that's one way that we engage the community that I can think of off the top of my head. So.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really cool to hear about too. Something else everyone can look into outside of the Datathon. So the last question I have up on Slido is, as someone who does not plan to participate but plans on following along, how do I keep up with all the teams and Datathon happenings, basically? So so we will certainly be sharing updates on social media as we kind of move through the mentor day and as teams are selected and that kind of thing. So keep following the CivTechSA social media, please, and you'll get all kinds of really cool updates, as well as mark on your calendar our pitch day. So that's Saturday, July 18th, and that's where all of these teams will pitch their final projects. So you'll get to really hear about all the teams, what they worked on, and then of course at the end of that we'll have our prizing as well, so you can see kind of who won what and celebrate with them, which will be a really exciting day. So with that, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up early. Woohoo! We got through a lot of data here and a lot of questions that were all really, really helpful. So hopefully those of you tuning in or that are watching this later really feel like you got a better overview of our data catalog and the Datathon itself. And hopefully you are all really inspired and excited to apply and get together a team if you don't have one, find one. And tackle this for us, come up with some really cool ways of looking at this data and how it could help our community. So just a few last little notes on that. The deadline to apply is June 24th, and our application, as well as the data catalog and more info and on the Datathon itself can all be found at CivTechSA.com. That's CivTech/SA.com or -SA.com/Datathon. So there's a whole page on our website dedicated to the Datathon to give you all sorts of good information. And then also, if you don't end up participating in the final pitches and being selected, or you are just watching along, we are going to have that crowd favorite award this year as one of our prizes. So please vote and listen to the pitches on the pitch day, and you can participate that way as well. So I think if anyone else wants to have another little...
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I believe that we had someone from VIA who wanted to maybe add a little bit.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, so we also wanted to mention, because we didn't talk about it earlier, on the viainfo.net, in the menu there's a developer tools. So there are additional data sets there. If you have a developer on your team, you would have to, if you download it, you would have to deserialize it. But there is additional information and data there if you'd like to utilize that. So we can also provide that link to Geekdom as well, but you can check out our website so that you can have additional information, because I know a lot of people were talking about via trans information and some of the other via link. So there is some additional information on our site, but you'd have to do a little work to get it.
Right, and also on our website, we have our 10 static GTFS files, and those are just CSV files that contain some information such as the stops, the stop times, the transfers that we have, and our trips file. So those are just CSV files that you can open up in Excel. So we have those as well as the PB real-time files that Jennifer was talking about.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's super helpful. And yay, even more data to comb through and look at and experiment with. Very cool.
Yeah, so that just always sits there.
Yeah, and we did want to make sure that we had as much relevant data as possible, because I know some of the, a big set of what we did is back in February, but other data sets are more recent. So we want to be able to offer that as well. So you can sort of hook into what other organizations have, like Bexar County and the city, SAWS, whatever else everyone has. So we just want to make sure that it can be connected.
Awesome. Cool. Anything else from any of our other partners? No? Okay, cool. I think we're good then. Again, thank you so much to all of our partners that have joined us this evening for giving us all the overview and information and just sharing and being part of this amazing event. We so look forward to the outcomes and to see what all happens with the submissions, the teams, the pitches, all of it. It'll be a really wonderful virtual experience for all of us this summer. So thank you all, and thanks for tuning in, everyone who's out there listening, and we hope to see your applications by June 24th. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Leslie.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.